All right, had to settle the dogs down a little bit there. So anyway, the bottom line was is that my thinking was is that we'll just harvest and start over, and the faster we harvest, the faster we can start over. Because waiting another month to make just a few more pesos, rather than and losing almost half the time that it would take for an entire new crop, that was why we harvested early. It basically boiled down to a 3,000 or 4,000 peso profit versus half the profit. A 3,000 or 4,000 peso profit in a month, an additional month, versus possibly 100,000 peso profit in the succeeding 2 months. So it was a couple thousand pesos versus 50,000. I'll take the 50,000 any day. So that's why we harvested so early. Mark Johnson left a good comment, and I'm gonna read it verbatim, because everything that he suggests in this comment is a good suggestion and good advice. It says, get your biosecurity under control. Drain the pond and dry kill everything. Install nylon mesh for all screen. Nylon mesh 1000 micron input-output water. Don't let any fish, tilapia, crabs, and people get your shrimp. Tea seed powder those fish. Test pond bottom pH and lime to kill snails and keep your alkalinity high. Declare war on crabs, crab fence, poison bait traps outside the ponds for crab holes. Next, fix your marketing. Install net pens 1,000 square meters each. Don't start out one big harvest. Harvest 1 kilos at a time, and have regular buyers lined up on a continuous schedule at a fixed price. Recirculate your main pond over to the smaller one. Use solar pump or diesel. Set up sedimentation nylon mesh to capture the. I'm sure it's autocorrect. It says settlement, but I'm sure he meant sediment. Feed your pond good bacteria, fermented rice bran to keep the disease in check and produce natural food. Monitor your alkalinity, ammonia, pH, DO, dissolved oxygen, salinity, temp levels to make adjustments. I think you're on the right track with the tilapia. Different stages of growth and continuous harvest, selling direct. Think the same system for shrimp. Just an outsider looking in, good luck. So, a bit of thunder too. That is all sound good advice. But because of our situation, I'm going to pick it apart. People have often said and complained that I get a lot of advice which I don't follow. And so I'm going to, line by line, even though I agree with all the suggestions, I'm going to line by line explain why we cannot follow most of them. So, drain the pond and kill everything. It's hard to drain that pond because it's almost at sea level, and you have to have a good functioning gate, which we will have. Draining the pond to kill everything means that it has to stay dry, and with the leaks in that pond, there's no way to keep it dry. Even if the gate was properly sealed up, the water check was properly sealed up, you drain the pond, and the next high tide, you're still going to have a foot of water, 2 feet of water in parts of it because it leaks so bad. So draining the pond to kill everything is not really an option. It's drained at low tide, and you've got a couple-hour window to do whatever you're going to do. The other thing with completely draining it and killing everything is that we'll kill whatever remaining LaMotte there is. And I'm not a big fan of doing that either, starting all over on the LaMotte, because we waited 2 weeks last time for it to get going. So uh, it might seem like a great idea to drain the pond and kill everything, but in practice, not so great. Nylon screen, 1,000 micron. I think 1,000 microns is about 1/4 of an inch, which is larger even than what we're using. We're using smaller than 1/4 of an inch for the biosecurity that we have in place now. So we have got that covered. If 1,000 microns is around 1/4 of an inch, which I think it is. The tea seed. You know what? We and people are thinking we never did any research, and we never asked for advice from locals that are doing this already. And trust me, we did. And the tea seed is kind of like pissing on a forest fire. It doesn't really work. BFAR recommends to get rid of the snails, you got to pick them out by hand. Even BFAR says that the tea is pretty much just a waste of time. It might ease your conscience a bit, letting you think that you've done something, but using the tea to kill the snails is just not effective. BFAR recommends that you go through and pick them out by hand, and then sieve the bottom of the pond a couple inches deep, because they will burrow in, and remove them all that way, and do that on a yearly basis. Which we didn't pick through the bottom, but myself and Tatai and Nerio, and I think Ablit was out there that day, and one other guy. The 5 of us went around that pond with buckets, and we just threw the snails out when we were close to the edge, but we put them in buckets other than that, and we got a lot. The guys took them home and ate them. Liming, lime is a good snail deterrent, and it does raise the alkalinity in the pond, but it's not free, and it's not, again, as a snail deterrent, lime is not that good of a deterrent. And the alkalinity in the pond is okay. Net pens. This is the biggest thing. The net pens. So look, we'd basically have to use window screen size netting if we were going to make net pens, because the larvae are this big when we put them in. And so I just did some rough calculations on what it would cost to do a 5,000 square meter pond with net with the screen the size of window screen, and I came up with about 200,000 pesos to make nets that fine. Aside from the fact that it's cost prohibitive, you then have the problem of water circulation. Screen that fine is not going to let a lot of water through, so we would have to have 5 separate aeration and water circulation units if we put in 5 nets for the shrimp. The money's not available, and that's just the 200,000 pesos for the screen is just the screen, and then you have to pay labor to put it in, and it's just not feasible to use net screens. With the lack of electricity out there, that would mean 5 separate, somewhat small aeration units. It would take one heck of a solar system to power all of that, which again, we don't have. Small harvests, regular buyers. Look, I noticed in a lot of comments people were saying you got ripped off because you were a foreigner, They're always going to pay you less. We should have sold them ourselves. Blah blah blah, on and on and on. You're just not correct, people. We got the going rate for those shrimp, that size, which was 80 pesos per kilo. If they had been larger, we would have gotten 160. I realize that in other places in the Philippines, the price is much higher. But most of you are looking at it from a retail standpoint. By the time shrimp gets to whatever store it's being sold at, it's already passed through 2 or 3 hands, and everybody's putting 5 or 10 pesos margin on it every time it passes through. We got 80 pesos per kilo. Those size shrimp, which are most often not even sold because they're too small, those size shrimp in the market we're selling for 120 pesos per kilo. So 80 pesos. Again, they've got to pass through a couple hands before they get to the seller. So the price we got was the fair price and what they were worth. Small harvest and regular buyers. Look, the way we are set up, and the way the vast majority of shrimp ponds in the Philippines are set up, it's an all-in out kind of thing. We can't do the 1,000 square meter nets, so we can't do a small harvest. And as I said previously, you can't just drain out some of the water and harvest some of the shrimp because they're too fragile. They just won't survive it. Draining out a good portion of the water and harvesting some of the shrimp and then filling it back up again. The shrimp just will not tolerate it. So there's no way to do a small harvest. It's all in or all out. Regular buyers, we do have a good regular buyer. Abam is the same guy that has bought our milkfish before. He's been doing this for 35 years. He's local and trusted. He's always treated us very fairly. Not to say that you can't, not to say that you don't have to push back a little bit once in a while. We had some heated discussions and negotiations on a few times when he was buying the milkfish. Look, he's a businessman. He's going to try to get them as cheap as he can. But as a producer, you have to get the best price you can. So there was some back and forth. I can tell you that we never sold the fish for what he offered, and he never paid us what we wanted. We always met somewhere around in the middle. So I trust that Abam is going to continue to give us a fair price. He also buys Genzante's shrimp. The old, you're a foreigner, you're going to get ripped off. Not that it doesn't happen here, but it only happens if you allow it to happen. It's not a guaranteed end all. Once you know where you're at and you know what the price is or should be, if you settle for a low price, it's all on you. If you know that the price should be higher, and there are other buyers, and Abam is aware of that. We've sold to other buyers before, and he's aware that he's not the only ship in the ocean. So that's another reason why we're treated fairly. He said in the comment, he said something about sediment and how to capture the sediment. Look, the whole bottom of that pond is sediment. It's river silt and shrimp poo. That's what's in the bottom of that pond. And capturing it, filtering it, I really didn't understand that part of his comment, why we should do it and how we should do it. I'll just leave that at that. And the monitoring the water, totally agree, except for the fact that all that monitoring equipment is expensive. Now, I bought a pH meter online and no way to calibrate it. I bought a dissolved oxygen meter online. Again, no way to calibrate it. Because it wasn't, the dissolved oxygen meter didn't have the regions that are needed to calibrate it, and we can't seem to find any. Again, it's part of the logistics in the Philippines. And monitoring those things is great. You alluded to not only monitoring the alkalinity, the dissolved oxygen, what all was it? I'll go back here to his particular comment. The pH, the ammonia, dissolved oxygen, salinity, and make adjustments. Look, there's no adjustments. It is what it is. That pond, just for simple math's sake, is 5,000 square meters. It's a little more than that, but just say it's 5,000 square meters, a meter deep. That's 1,320,860 gallons, U.S. gallons of water. What are you going to do to the salinity? Nothing. What are you going to do to the pH level? Nothing. Now, the dissolved oxygen, I will not argue the point that we need aeration in that pond, and we're striving to do so. I'm this close to pulling the trigger on ordering a real, bona fide, honest-to-God aeration unit. Other than that, it is what it is. There's no making adjustments to 1,300,000 gallons of water. It is what it is. The only thing that we can really change is the oxygen content of the water. Now, we're still looking for a biofloc recipe, but we haven't been really pressing on it on the biofloc end of it, because the one thing that biofloc needs more than anything else is aeration, and a lot of it to make it work. Without aeration, you're just contaminating your pond, and it's just got windy outside, so it's probably just going to start to rain here pretty quick. Wow, this has turned into a long video. I didn't think it was going to be such a long video, so I'm going to end it up, even though I still had some more here. You guys let me know, what do you think about a live stream answering comments, or just making videos answering comments? I like a little more of the interaction, other than just giving a heart and a smiley face or a thumbs up. And it's hard for me to express myself clearly just typing things in. It takes too long. I'd much rather do it verbally, either by video or by live stream. So you guys let me know which you would prefer. We're going to end this one up. Thank you, everyone. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.